Hello folks, this is John Matus, and I wanted to just give you folks a quick overview of the Instructor portal today. As you know, this is now a required security feature for the roster submission, and some of you may be wondering a little bit about how to navigate it, what it's used for, what the general usefulness of the product is. The first thing about this feature, of course, is that it places the roster submission tool behind a login, and really that was implemented simply to keep the anonymous, I don't know, near-to-doer from coming onto your portal and essentially messing with it. We had an instance where somebody was submitted a roster with some inflammatory language, and another one that, just seemed kind of inappropriate. So we decided that it would just be best and safest for the TCM community to have this particular aspect of the software behind a key, if you will. So instructors are going to need their email address and their web access password to reach you. So the email address, very simply put, is the one that you have on record in their instructor file. Keep in mind, of course, that they can't use just any email address. They have to use the one in your instructor file. The web access password is also given to them by you in their instructor profile. If you delete the web access password, then they can no longer get into that particular area. So just keep in mind the web access password is useful for limiting their access as well as enabling it. The second you remove that web access password, the instructor can no longer enter this particular area of the software. So the first thing you'll note here is the roster tool, which is here. And this is very much like previous roster tools. They're going to fill this out to send a roster to their training center, in this case you. Other tabs here are the credentials tab. This basically will present the instructor with his or her expiration dates. We figured this would be useful because people tend to forget this. So if at least they look at it every time they submit a roster, or there's a potential for them to look at it when they submit a roster, that gives them the ability to be reminded of their expiration date. So you'll notice expiration, instructor certification, and then comments. This comments box is in the instructor profile right next to their cert, and it will display whatever you put there. So, if you're a training center coordinator and you're going to put in comments, make sure you don't put inappropriate ones in there because the instructor can see them on their side. So good to know info right there. Your information, basically it's the instructor's info. So their email, their telephone number, their cell phone, all of those little tidbits. If the instructor suddenly had a new cell phone number, for example, and he or she were to update it on the instructor side, you would automatically have access to that new number on your side. So this is kind of useful. The app section is something we're toying with. We hope to provide some free apps to instructors. This is the AED Trainer app. We are going to be placing that free in the instructor portal at some point in time. So there are a number of little things. It's something you can opt out of if you don't have any interest, but it basically is just little goodies for instructors. The piece I wanted to touch on is this courses tab. This allows the instructor to see all past courses that they have taught, but it now also allows instructors to see future courses and to edit them. So, for example, in this case, you'll notice that there are a number of different courses here. These are only courses in which the instructor is a participant in some way, meaning that he is either the lead instructor or an assistant instructor on the roster. So this has a variety of different uses, which is really what I wanted to walk through with you today, is the use of this particular courses area of the tool, or the courses tool on the instructor portal. Future courses, of course, are courses after today. Today's date is April 2nd, so you will notice, everyone, that the courses on April 10th and April 11th are in the future area. These are courses that the instructor is assigned to and, of course, has not yet taught. The past courses, on the other hand, are things that the instructor, in principle, has already taught because the date is now 4/2. So you'll notice those display on the bottom. A couple of things. This date range here will not go beyond today's date. So you can't put, for example, March 31st in there. And this date will not go beyond April 2nd. So again, you cannot put April 10th in there. The other two, on the other hand, this one and this one, will go as far out as you would like. So you can certainly adjust those and see broader ranges if you're scheduling people long term, or if you want to see a very, very long history. This particular one will default to 2 years before the current date. But the feature that I wanted to look at with you is this business of editing the rosters. You'll notice some have little pencils next to them and some do not. If they have a little pencil, it's because the course has not been marked complete. This one, on the other hand, the course on 211, has in fact been marked complete and thus is not editable by the instructor. So let's talk about where this particular feature is kind of useful. It is particularly useful if you send people out to teach for you. So for example, ABC Corporation has purchased an AED. They would like you to come down and train 10 people to use it. You book the class, you hire an instructor, you bill ABC Corporation. This class is off-site, so perhaps the instructor, after the class is done, can log in, click on the little pencil, and what he or she is going to have access to is the instructor records. So here are the 3 instructors assigned to the class. Here are the students that are registered for this class. Okay, so the instructor could do something like put in their scores, mark them pass, fail. He or she can also add a student if there was a walk-in, or perhaps this whole class is walk-ins, like no one is pre-registered, so he or she could put in the entire roster for you. And submit the roster back. So the joy of this particular feature is that you can get immediate fulfillment of course information from a remote site. So this is again useful for the training center that goes ahead and does courses off-site, perhaps with per diem staff that don't necessarily come back to the training center right away. They can type in these rosters remotely for you from the location as long as they have internet access without needing access to your particular program portal. Quick word about that: the second you fill this out, the instructor gets an email confirmation that the course was edited, and you get an email confirmation that the course was edited. So if you send somebody out to teach and they're done at 2:30 in the afternoon and you get an email at 2:35, you could start printing those cards immediately. It has one other benefit that I would like to point out to you. You'll notice again that this course on the bottom has been completed and thus is not available for editing. Let's pretend that the instructor taught this one on their own. It was not a class that you arranged. It was a class that they arranged on their own, and they turned into you for cards as a processing kind of arrangement, where you have very little to do with the class other than collecting the paperwork and perhaps QAing it and issuing cards for it. That's a more standard heart association arrangement. In this particular scenario, this instructor submitted a roster, and let's say that he or she forgot to add some information. Perhaps he left a student off. The course has been submitted, so at this point you can't really take it back. What you could do is flip it from completed to something like taught, and then it will be available for editing. So I'm going to show you that with a second screen here with the administrator side. So here is the administrator area of TCM. And what I'm looking to do is to switch my past courses from on 211. You'll notice it shows complete. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this course from complete to taught. Essentially, all you really need is something other than completed. So we now have the 211 course being taught. Now I'm going to refresh this page, because I'm running them in different browsers here, as if there was 2 different computers. And now you'll notice there is now a pencil next to this course. So the instructor now has this one available for editing. So let's, again, paint a picture of where this feature could be useful to you as a training center coordinator who deals with a lot of rosters. The instructor submits a roster to you. It's not quite right for whatever reason. Perhaps he forgot a student. Perhaps he made some kind of dreadful mistake and he realizes it when he got his email confirmation. You can import it, mark it taught or leave it taught, and then encourage the instructor to go back to their portal and edit it as a final submission. That way you don't have to do the work. But this gives you the ability, I guess, to go back in time and to make that edit. So notice the ECSI course for CPR and AED on 211 now has 2 students instead of 3. So your responsibility, once you get that email saying that the course has been edited, would be on the instructor side, or I'm sorry, on the administrator side, to go back and change it to completed so that the instructor no longer has access to it. So a couple of things. Some greater usefulness on the remote course side, meaning when you go out and teach people at their own locations, you're going to be able to submit rosters more effectively, or your instructors can. And the second thing is, of course, the ability to edit a previously submitted course by an instructor, which previously was not capable in TCM. I will caution you on one pitfall. If you're not religiously turning your courses to completed, there is some potential that an instructor can edit a course that you probably don't want them to edit. So, for example, if you routinely do rosters, print cards, and leave the sessions as taught, when the instructor logs in, he or she will see a number of little pencils for courses that perhaps were taught 6 months ago. So that leaves an opportunity for them to maybe like manipulate some of your course records and then demand cards and say, oh, I never got this card, and the student was in there. When he'd really just added them a day ago on this 6-month-old course. So make sure you're turning your courses to completed when you are finishing them. But we hope that this enhancement is useful for you and that you can do lots of great stuff with it. I know that we have a lot of interest in making instructors submit rosters from the field for quicker card turnaround, so we're pretty excited about it. You can see all of our stuff at trainingcentermanager.com or by going to our website at lessstress.com. Thanks.